What up? I'm Tom. Find me by Googling Cannabis Lawyer, then clicking on my website, CannabisIndustryLawyer.com, an online resource for all your questions about navigating the cannabis industry. Like today's hot topic in Illinois, social equity applicants. We are going to get right to it, and you will know this law better than 99% of the people out there if you watch until the end. It's real mind-exploding stuff. But first, by the laws of YouTube, I must remind you to like and subscribe. Now let's dive in. Section 7 of the law relates to social equity applicants, but we cannot just dive in there just yet. First, we need to review the literal definition of a social equity applicant under Illinois law, and for that, we go into the definitions. A social equity applicant means an applicant that is an Illinois resident that meets one of the following criteria. 1. An applicant with at least 51% ownership and control by one or more individuals who has resided for at least 5 of the preceding 10 years in a disproportionately impacted area. 2. An applicant with at least 51% ownership and control by one or more individuals who 1. Have been arrested for, convicted of, or adjudicated delinquent for any offense that is eligible for expungement under this act or is a member of an impacted family. Or 3. For applicants with a minimum of 10 full-time employees, an applicant with at least 51% of current employees who 1. Reside in a disproportionately impacted area, or 2. Have been arrested for, convicted of, or adjudicated delinquent for any of the offenses eligible for expungement under this act, or a member of an impacted family. Did you see the difference? Small companies need both ownership and control of the social equity applicants, but large companies just need the raw number of employees. Then you can keep control and management however you want. On the other hand, the board of directors of owners and controllers of the company becomes a team building exercise. And I can't wait to help you out on that. Now we know what a social equity applicant is. Why do we want to be one of them? Because the law preferences them in 2 very clear ways. 1, by providing at least 20% of the points for scoring dispensary and craft grow applications, and 2, by providing access to low interest government loans to lower the barriers to entering the legal cannabis market. Section 7-10 of the new cannabis law creates a cannabis business development fund to provide low interest rate loans to social equity applicants to pay for business expenses required to operate their cannabis businesses. Further, grants are available to qualified social equity applicants to pay for ordinary and necessary business expenses to start and run their cannabis businesses. What is a qualified social equity applicant? We go back to the definition to find out that it is a qualified social equity applicant means a social equity applicant who has been awarded a conditional license under this act to operate a cannabis business establishment. Great. What's a conditional license? A conditional adult use dispensing organization license means a license awarded to top scoring applicants for adult use dispensing organization licenses that reserves the right to an adult use dispensing organization license if the applicant meets certain criteria described in the act, but does not entitle the recipient to begin purchasing or selling cannabis or cannabis infused products. Okay, a dispensary that has gotten, but before it is open. Cool. You can get grants if your social equity applicant status gets you the license, then you apply for the grants, then you build, and then you open. Can we grow cannabis and get the grant? Let's check. Oh, cool. There is a cannabis cultivation license. A conditional use adult cultivation center license means a license awarded to a top scoring applicant for an adult use cultivation center license that reserves the right to an adult use cultivation center license if the applicant meets certain conditions as determined by the Department of Agriculture by rule, but does not entitle the recipients to begin growing, possessing, or selling cannabis or cannabis infused products. Well, how many licenses are there? 30. Cool. But wait, the current players get grandfathered in, so how many are those? 20. Well, nuts. Okay, now we're down to 10, right? Well, maybe it's even worse than that, because you see, Section 20-15 says conditional adult use cultivation center application, A, if Department of Agriculture makes available additional cultivation center licenses pursuant to section 20-5, applicants for conditional adult use cultivation center licenses shall electronically submit the following in such form that the Department of Agriculture may direct. So for conditional adult use cultivation to happen, more than the current 10 spots need to come online. Bummer. So let's just concentrate on those dispensary grants and see what type of financing is available. Under the law, subsection C, loans made under this section, 1, shall only be made if in the department's judgment, the project furthers the goals set forth in this act, and 2, shall be in a principal amount and form and contain such terms and provisions with respect to security, insurance, reporting, delinquency charges, default remedies, and other matters as the department shall determine appropriate to protect the public interest and be consistent with the purposes of this section. And D, grants under this section shall be awarded on a competitive and annual basis under the Grant Accountability and Transparency Act. Grants made under this section shall further and promote the goals of this act, including promotion of social equity applicants, job training, and workforce development, and technical assistance to social equity applicants. So that gets us to a question. We make the best applications. So we have all the social equity points, but do we incorporate the grant writing process into the applications? We believe that you have to maximize the points. 20% of your application is going to you as a social equity applicant, but it looks like a lot of people qualify. Over 800,000 open for expungement under the new law, and people living in impoverished communities. But what does your dispensary bring to the community to help fix the problems of the drug war? That is the intention of this act. Well, this is where the whole story of your company can really flourish and bring positive change to the community. These need to go into your training plans and community outreach. Imagine if your dispensary sponsors expungement and job fairs each year, in partnerships with your local bar associations and cannabis businesses that need trained staff. Those are the things that your company, especially if it's going for the social equity points, must consider when putting together your cannabis license application. Now, do you bank on the loans? No way. You're never entitled to a loan or a grant. You must qualify. Have financing in order either way. The applications will be expensive to ship because of how large they are, and despite what some people may believe, lawyers need to be paid for their time and labor, especially if your lawyer is commercially sophisticated enough to handle private offerings of less than $5 million and preferred shares for additional participation by social equity applicants. Thanks for joining me on this episode. Remember, cannabis legalization is only a few months away, so start putting your plans together for dispensaries, cultivation centers, and subscribe to stay up to date. And if you need my help, just Google cannabis lawyer and get in touch with me at cannabisindustrylawyer.com. See you real soon.